Okay, welcome back to my Let's Play of Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. So, I have played a bit more of this game. Not a tremendous amount, but a bit more. This is Chapter 3. And when I think when we left off, we had just finished Chapter 1. Yeah, I believe so. So I did all of Chapter 3. And I actually have done all of Chapter 3. I've done all of Chapter 2. I've done all of Chapter 3. I saw the start of Chapter 4, and then RetroArch crashed. And RetroArch has this annoying thing. There's probably a way to sort this out. It seems like a fatal flaw. But if you don't close RetroArch properly, the SRAM does not get saved. So if it crashes and you load up the game again, there'll be no save files. So all I had to rely on was a save state that I made like last night, which was like partway through Chapter 3. And so that's where we're going to kind of bring this to a close. Because I really don't want to play through the rest of Chapter 3 all the way again. And the walkthrough makes it sound like I'm pretty fucked. I don't know if that's truly the case, because I didn't actually experience much Chapter 4. But the walkthrough at the end of Chapter 3 says, "Speaking of levels, I hope you have promoted a large part of your characters. If not, the next chapter will be quite complicated for you." That's what it says. Now, by the end of Chapter 3, I had promoted one character. That was it. Part of this is due to... Okay, well, let me just say, I'm a little conflicted on this game. I think in many ways, it's the best game of the series up to this point. It's certainly the most ambitious. It's certainly the most polished when it comes to like quality of life, UI, all that sort of stuff. Mechanics, it has the most mechanics up to this point, and there's a lot of interesting mechanics. The scale of the game is much grander, both, in sort of the story and the multiple generations and the actual chapters themselves, which are like essentially multiple Fire Emblem chapters just all combined into one big map. I mean, it's really a fascinating game from a lot of perspectives. But it's also like kind of, I don't know, it's like it's almost not really a Fire Emblem game. It feels kind of like a Fire Emblem spin-off compared to the last 3 in some ways. Again, I have limited knowledge of the franchise as we continue to go through this. Like, I don't know what all the future games are like, so I don't know if any of the other games are going to have maps set up like this, where it can easily take you like 2 to 3 hours to do one chapter. That's a long time. I mean, yes, it does have the autosave, or the save for every turn, which some people say it makes the game really easy. I have Rewind, which is even easier, but I don't know. It doesn't feel that easy, but what I saw from some comments is that this game, and I guess maybe the next game as well, are really tough for a blind first playthrough. And that's the impression that I got, because the game just kind of throws stuff at you that you can't be prepared for. You have no idea that what's coming. I mean, I'm sort of using a walkthrough, but I'm not really following it that closely. I'm just kind of playing through. I'm looking at the walkthrough for like some secret events and stuff, but those don't make or break the thing. So yeah, I mean, it's just, you're very unprepared. And there's some really harrowing situations that they kind of throw at you. But then they say that on subsequent playthroughs, when you know what's coming, you know how to play, you know what's happening, you know the mechanics, all that sort of stuff, it's a really easy game. And I could see that being true as well. Now, an interesting thing that I'm noting here, looking at some comments, is that, you know, the walkthrough said, oh, if you've not promoted a bunch of your characters by chapter 4, you are fucked in the ass. Whereas the comments here say, I mean, look at this. This is the top comment for this one. How most people play this game is throwing Sigurd into packs of enemies and watching him clear house while everyone else picks off stragglers. Sigurd should be able to handle most of the combat on his own. That seems counter to standard Fire Emblem practice, where the game does give you really overpowered characters, but you don't want to have them just farm all the kills because you need to support everyone else and get everyone else buffed up. So, I don't know. I mean, it would have been nice had I actually tried Chapter 4 and seen how harsh it was. But there's, you know, there's a real, certainly psychological element to having chapters this long. Like, it's a big endeavor for me to say, I'm going to start this chapter now. Because you know that there's just 3 hours of just, like, one, like, really risky, dangerous situations that could easily wipe people out, and I have to constantly rewind. And there's just so much ground to cover. And so most of your playtime in this game is literally just moving units across the massive map. And it's even worse when you're doing it blind and you don't know where to, like, because often I look back at the walkthrough and like, oh yeah, this happens now, which is why I recommended leaving some units here. And I didn't read about that. I just kind of, you know, glance around the walkthrough a little bit. But had I left units there, it would have been a lot easier. But I moved my whole army, you know, in one big ball. And so, yeah, most of my time is just, okay, this guy moves here, this guy moves here, blah, 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 you know, over and over and over and over as we all just shuffle across this big map. But for a blind playthrough, how else could you possibly play, you know? You're not going to spread out your army where you think something might happen, you know, so you travel all together so that everyone's always safe. But it's just a big slog. Yes, I don't know. I'm conflicted. Because I think there is a lot of really cool stuff about this game. The RPG mechanics, you know, and all that. Really cool stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I think the size of the maps and the size of the chapters are kind of a big detriment to the overall experience I have of playing it. You know, it's why books are generally broken up into shorter chapters. Because, yeah, you could just break up a book into 3 chapters or something, but that's... There's a reason it's done the way that it's done. So... And I think there's probably a reason that they don't have this as the standard playstyle of Fire Emblem for future games. I don't know that for a fact, but based on comments that I'm reading, this seems like a bit of an outlier. So, yeah, I don't know. Of the 4 that I've played, I guess I might rank this second overall. Still behind Gaiden. But I don't know, maybe I need to now go back to Gaiden and play a bit more of that. Maybe that'll come off worse. It's tricky. Yeah, it's really tricky. There's a lot to like here. I think if I started this game over from the beginning and used knowledge and walked through fully, and really tried to cheese and actually get Ira or whatever in the first chapter, you know, and really be the best of the best, I'd probably have an easier time of it, and it would probably be a little better. I wouldn't shuffle my whole army across the map all the time, you know, things like that. It could be a better experience. So it may, if I start over, it may hit number 1 of the 4 so far. I could very well see that. Another thing that I fucked up on is I didn't understand the arena. I thought there was one arena, and whoever did it, that's who got the XP. That was really dumb, and that was a big detriment. Every character can do the arena. Each character gets its own run of the arena. And so what you're supposed to do... I don't know if I have a character... I have art in here. Yeah, okay. I mean, the size of the armies and the battles here are kind of unprecedented. Alright, but so we have Art in here. He can go into the arena. He really sucks. But he can go in here and try his best. He's gonna lose. Right. So what you're supposed... So if you die, you go to 1 health. You don't lose the character or anything, thank God. But you sit there at 1 health. So what you're supposed to do, I guess, what people said, is that as soon as you take a hit of any kind, you want to back out and heal back up. Have some characters there to heal. And then you try it again. Because I guess that's the only way to really reset the RNG. Because I can rewind, but if I lose the fight and I rewind, I'm going to lose the fight every single time. Like, that's not a factor. And so you're meant to complete the arena, I guess, with every single character you have. And you're just meant to spend a bunch of time doing that. Because there are certainly lulls in the chapter where there's nothing time pressing. And you can just spend turn after turn after turn sitting here. And I think that's a thing that would not be really intuitive to first-time players. Because it feels, you know, normally in a game like this, it's like, okay, we have in-between chapters, that's where we do a bunch of side stuff and blah, 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 and item management and rest up, whatever. And then you do the chapter and you go out there, you send the army out, you do the chapter, you win the battle, blah, and then you come back and you do more side stuff before the next chapter. I mean, that's standard formula. This one's a little different because the chapters are so long and there's these lull periods and things like that where the enemy's not moving, you're not moving, and you can just kind of sit there. And so, yeah. So I'm tempted to just start over and start this game fresh and play through it again. But it's really, like I said, kind of a daunting proposition considering the chapter length and how much movement there is involved. And, you know, even if I'm smarter about where to put units and stuff, there's still a lot of micromanagement of every single unit because there's really no limit. There is no limit to how many units you can field. The only limit is like who you recruit or who you lose or something. But if you recruit every possible character and you don't lose any characters, you are fielding a lot of units. And the enemy is fielding, you know, massive amounts of units, as you just saw. And so, yeah, it just is very a time-consuming game. Whereas I can just move on to the next one and we can continue the process. The next one is actually the one that prompted this whole thing. I don't remember what I was looking for, what I was searching for. But I had never heard the name Fire Emblem Thracia 776. But until I found it in a discussion or something, some comment, and I looked into it and I was like, this looks really cool. You know, this looks like a Fire Emblem game that I want to play. And it has this, you know, cool name and it's Japanese only. And it's like, I gotta check this out. And then I was like, well, if I'm gonna check that out, maybe I should check out all the Fire Emblem games. But it's really well received. The next one. Famitsu gave it a 35 out of 40, which is pretty fucking high. Nintendojo gave it a 9.9 out of 10. A must-have for fans of the genre. And it's apparently, I guess, like the hardest game in the series, according to plenty of people. So I'm really excited to get to that, and that's why I'm probably going to leave Genealogy of the Holy War behind for now. But yeah, I mean, I do think this one's really interesting. I think if they remade this one, it probably could do pretty well. I think if they remade it and just fixed a few things, made it a little bit easier for a blind playthrough, a little less of a slog for a blind playthrough, you know, things like that. Made a little things clearer to understand. I mean, if they just put in like a little bit of like an auto mode, you know, like the mass assault, if they just had a button, a command that you could just say, okay, everyone move towards this spot on the map. And then your whole arm, everybody on the field just moved towards that spot. I mean, that would solve so many of my issues with like wanting to replay this. Because that would really seal the deal. Now, I do think there is some ROM hacks for it. Let me see. I saw a couple. So there's Genealogy of the Holy Perambulation. This is what it says. This game has a problem, a movement problem. Maps are big and there's a lot of ground to cover. Units with low movement are often inherently bad as a result. This hack exists to solve that issue and curb the countless other imbalances in Fire Emblem 4's design. If you've never been able to fully enjoy this game before, Genealogy of the Holy Perambulation may be just what you need. Units who travel on foot have higher movement, between 7 to 9, to keep up with their mounted allies. It makes no sense, you know, logically, but whatever. Player units are rebalanced so that everyone has something to offer to the army. Weapon stats have been changed. Maps have received layout changes to improve pace and eliminate frustratingly dense terrain. Enemy stats, placements, and inventories are modified to make the game far more challenging. You will find it much more difficult to solo the game with Sigurd now. You know, further evidence that that's apparently what people do, is they just send in Sigurd to do everything. And I was kind of doing that, but he wasn't the gold standard for me for OP insanity is still Alm from Fire Emblem Gaiden with the bolt sword. I mean, he seemed like God incarnate, just walking the earth. Sigurd seemed like he still would die after like 5 hits, so I'm not sure. But I don't know. This sounds interesting to me, so maybe if I replay it, I will use this hack. I don't like that it says it makes the game far more challenging. But again, people said that if you know what you're doing when you play through this game, it's really easy. So, okay. I mean, maybe that's the case. That seems to be okay. There's also Fire Emblem Binary. Pursuit is no longer required to strike twice. Every unit can score critical hits without critical. So that's reverting some of those changes back to like normal Fire Emblem. Split promotions have been added for the vast majority of units. That's exciting. Most of the holy weapons are obtainable, and one only needs the correct minor holy blood to use them. Weapon balance has been reformed and new ones added. So axe users are no longer completely left in the dust. Children are now capable of inheriting the sword skills regardless of their class, and in addition to that, more skill-granting items are present. The dismount feature from the 2 other SNES games has been added for all mounted units, allowing mounts to traverse more hostile terrain. That's pretty great. Story is the same as the vanilla game, aside from a few minor event changes. This hack aims to provide a richer playing experience for people with a fondness for the vanilla genealogy of the Holy War. That one also sounds pretty interesting, without saying that it's just more difficult. Oh, this review for it says that the result is a harder game, but a truly inspired one. This hack requires you to go all out in romance and item management and money management, strategy, use of terrain. All in all, it's a new and next level experience. If you've played Fire Emblem 4 multiple times and loved it, this is going to extend the replay value even further for you. Yeah, so it's hard to say. Maybe I should just replay through it normally and, try and cheese everything and make it easy. Rather than seeking challenge in any way. I don't know. I think bottom line is we're going to move forward and go to Thracia. Because that's kind of interesting to me. And right now I'm really into Fire Emblem and I'm into strategy RPGs and I want to, play all these. But eventually I will get burned out of strategy RPGs and specifically Fire Emblem games for a while. So we kind of want to keep moving rather than me just playing a whole bunch on my own and burning myself out. Now, there is another game, sort of, that was released in 1997. BS Fire Emblem, Arcania Senkai Hen. Commonly referred to as BS Fire Emblem. Much like BS Zelda, if you've ever heard of that. So this was a rather interesting episodic thing. I mean, if you've never heard of BS Zelda or anything like that, or the Saddle of View or whatever it's called, basically these were short episodes of a game that were downloaded via satellite at a specific time. And so it was like a television thing, but it was a game. And so you played it at that specific time during the broadcast. And then that was it. And so BS Fire Emblem, there were 4 episodes in 1997 broadcast. And it's they were prequels to the events of the first Fire Emblem. It's considered an unofficial part of the series now, but mostly due to just how difficult it is to get them. So I don't know if there is like ROMs of BS Fire Emblem. There must be. I mean, there's videos of it. But it's based on the same engine as Mystery of the Emblem, which I was not a huge fan of. So I think we're just gonna skip over BS Fire Emblem. A really interesting system, you know, the whole Saddle of View or whatever it was called. Very cool. I mean, the Japanese were living in the future in the 90s. But yeah, we're gonna move on then to Thracia 776, which I am quite interested to check out. That is the last Super Famicom Fire Emblem and the last console one until Path of Radiance in 2005. So we're going to be moving on to the Game Boy Advance after that. So I have a feeling that Thracia 776 is going to be the best looking 2D Fire Emblem, because Game Boy Advance is generally a downgrade from the SNES. So that's cool. I'm excited to see how it looks. Where you've got cool CRT filters, should be pretty good. Yeah, I guess that's all there is to say. So, yeah. Bottom line, I guess I can recommend checking out Genealogy of the Holy War. Just kind of know what you're in for. I think if you watched these videos, you probably know if you'd care for this kind of gameplay or not. The scale is really cool. I mean, there's no denying it. It feels like a big war going on. Compared to most strategy RPGs, like, you don't see this kind of unit density. So it's pretty cool, but not perfect. Alright, my name is Mangg. Game you just finished watching is Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. I'll see you fine folks next time.